What's up, Kenra? I'm your girl, Lo, and today I am sharing a really easy to take back home tutorial for you. We're going to play with panels and slices and foiling patterns that give us big impact. So I have my beautiful friend Alyssa. Of course, she's a gorgeous natural level 7. I mean, hello. We're gonna create such a beautiful result, but just so you know, this is a technique that I use in my home salon on levels 2 to 7. So you'll be able to get beautiful results. For the blonding today, of course, I'm using my favorite blue powder Lightener plus 30 volume, and our objective is gonna be to pop and blend to get that iconic money piece and that soft kind of beachy aesthetic. As always, I like to bundle up and section away hair that is ultimately my second priority. With a money piece, you wanna be able to place your lightener in as early as possible in the application, because the more time the product has to lift, the brighter the money piece. So, you know, it really makes so much sense to just make sure that your sections are actually helping you out when it comes to getting through your application. So I've done 2 kind of diagonal sections on each side of Alyssa's head, and this just gives me so much freedom to. Okay, let's take a look at our first section. We're gonna come in from the temple at a diagonal right above the ear. Alyssa is a new mama, so she has these baby hairs, just like many women have. So I always like to scoot that aside, because when you pick those little hairs up and blonde them to a level 10, it looks like breakage. So we don't want to create that vibe, you know? So we're gonna scoot that aside, and I love just picking up the softest sections, kind of like right where they're gonna fall naturally. We're gonna do a soft weave around the hairline here, and then we'll piggyback with some slices. So I've laid the first 2 foils in, and what I'm looking at is where Alyssa naturally parts her hair. So I'm going to do sections that kind of fit the headspace, if that makes sense, because I really want it to fall really natural for her, especially because we're going to create a lot of levels of lift. I want to take her all the way up to like a bright 10. So where we place it and those subtle little shifts to the left or right, they make a difference, and they make the blending with the shadow root even easier. So here on the other side, just to reiterate, the surface space is gonna be smaller than this section. The end result will be super balanced because of where she's parting. So these things are things I like to pay attention to. Now that I've placed 4 soft weaves, I'm going to pop in a slice. But as I do this, I'm going to feather it up into the root line. This is just going to give us so much drama and pop. without any harshness. Especially when you have your clients that have like finer hair textures, thinner hair altogether, you wanna make sure that you're not over foiling them and losing all the dimension and not over stressing the hair. And you wanna make sure that the color that you're laying in counts and is dynamic and visible. So that's where slices come in. There was many years earlier on as a colorist where I was a little bit, I'd say intimidated by bold color placement because I just wasn't clear on the end result and what value it would bring to the overall look. But now I am such a big fan because we have an opportunity to see this big, bright boldness. And classes like these are important to take any fear of the unknown away, right? So in between this slice and this foil here, I'm gonna do a little teasy tip out. It's one of my favorite ways to do a money piece that's super soft and flowy. We're gonna do the same effect on the other side and in the top two pieces as well. In this foil, I just want to add out that I'm brushing the product up into a diagonal. So it's definitely not going to be this harsh thing that we're going to have to shadow down. It's going to come in at this like slight diagonal, so it just gives us a softer vibe. So now I like to let these two sections down so that I can really take a look at where the parameter is, because it's really become so obvious where the color can accent. So we have some nice pale blonde in here, but it really kind of gets layered away almost in this area. Okay, here we have this section is such a potential for a moment. I want to see a really nice strand here in a tip out. So instead of just, trying to grab it in one section, I'm just going to separate it into a neat little strand and then a teasy tip out. So it gives me that effect. I would like to pull out some of these paler pieces and then bring the color all the way up to the scalp. And as you can see, as I'm holding it down here, it's not that dramatic as, you know, we look at the parameter. So that means I'm going to be hand painting some pieces to just bring that full circle and that detail. You can even see some of these pieces here. I'm gonna do the same. So now that we're here, I feel like I just want to balayage these little moments so that we just get some freshness for our tone, and these can get a little bit brighter. Beautiful. Let's look at the back of Alyssa's hair. I actually quite like what's happening. I think we have an opportunity to put like a couple ribbons, nothing overkill, and then to pop some of these in the final process with a little balayage. But what my eye really drops to is this little disconnect here. So how I'm gonna approach this is by sectioning up this top veil of color. And then I will be teasing and tipping out this whole section to about here. I think that will look really nice. To do this, I'm gonna separate her hair into two larger quadrants. And I'm gonna take my subsection. Really, this whole piece is gonna create a veil that adds dimension right over the underneath. Now that I'm in the last sections of the hair, I've mixed up fresh lightener, because you know I like my active products. I've said this in past tutorials, but nothing is a bigger bummer than getting to the final sections of the hair and you end up, you know, not remixing fresh chemicals, and you use whatever's developed in your bowl, and as you rinse, there's a pretty little brassy chunk of hair that you now have to shadow out. Because the lift had already plateaued. So whenever I'm in the final sections, I know that's my cue to remix a fresh batch of lightener. So I'm gonna take this slicey section right at the crown here, and what that's gonna do is as it spreads out, it's gonna look really piecey and beautiful. Don't be scared to try panels, because if you can take a fine enough section, you'll be surprised at literally how soft it is. I love keeping my applications in the back of the hair super, super simple, just because oftentimes it's, you know, my client's number one priority to have all of this boldness and blend where they see it the most and appreciate it the most. So that's why I always leave the back for the end of the process, just because it's like ultimately this area that we can build over time, when at the end of each session they want to see all this work put into their face frame, right? I love the blue powder because it definitely cancels out as it lifts, And I know that it's gonna be super pure and creamy and pale if it looks blue when I pull the foil out. If it doesn't look blue and it still has a cast of like yellow, it's not a level 10. You know it's a creamy, pale, snatched level 10 when it just looks pastel like this. And that's kind of how I measure when it's time to pull the foils out or ultimately time to rinse. Okay, here's a little example of it needing a little more time. See how you can see just a little bit of warmth through the lightener? I'm just gonna take my fingers and move the product around. The ends look really good, so I could probably pull those here. Look at this beautiful customized blonde. I just love this so much because it's so bold. It has rimini pieces in dimension, movement, oomph. It's got the oomph, and it didn't take us very long to work through this whole process. And quick recap on the toner, I used a 5-in to bring balance to her root and have it be super nice and organic and fluid as it transitions into these bright poppy ends. And overall, we used one of my favorite all-time glazes, which is 9PV. If you've watched any of my tutorials, you know how I feel about 9PV. It is the perfect gold beige neutralizing formula. It does it for me every time. And here you're seeing the best of it because it's bright, it's balanced, it's blended, and it's beautiful. I love this look. This is like just so signature for us, and if you love and got so much inspiration from this YouTube episode, you're gonna wanna subscribe to the Kenra Professional YouTube channel right now because there is incredible content, jewels, diamonds, everything inspirational from this YouTube channel with so many guest educators. You're gonna wanna hit subscribe. And if you'd like to follow me and my hair journey and see more of this, follow me on Instagram at @low_Wheeler Davis.